Well, hi everyone, and welcome to a quick unboxing of the brand new SpaceNam plastic miniatures from Wargames Atlantic, as well as their British Bulldogs and some classic fantasy Lizardmen. So I don't know if this happens to you, but I have on occasion pre-ordered certain items online and then sort of forgot about them until they showed up on the front step some weeks or even months later, which is kind of what happened here. In this case, I ordered a box of these brand new Wargames Atlantic SpaceNam figures, along with a box of these British Bulldogs, which came out earlier this year, and some classic fantasy Lizardmen from the year 2020. I bought these from Miniature Market, but you can purchase Wargames Atlantic products from lots of different online retailers, including Amazon and North Star Military Figures, as well as the Wargames Atlantic online store. Wargames Atlantic offers multi-part plastic figures in a variety of genres, including fantasy, sci-fi, ancients, Napoleonic, colonial, and even World War I and World War II. Where Wargames Atlantic really shines, in my opinion, is their multi-part sci-fi miniature kits, which offer tons of customization options. In the Bulldog kit, for example, each sprue has 6 bodies on it, but something like 30 different heads. Some of these kits are obviously designed with classic Imperial Guard regiments in mind, but you could also use them to build generic soldiers for Stargrave, Space Weirdos, or the upcoming Xenos Rampant, which ships this week, I believe. Depending on which set you're buying or where you're buying it from, these boxes are all in the $30 to $40 range, I believe. I think the SpaceNam was $39 and the Lizardmen were $32 or something like that, which isn't too bad if you're getting 20 to 24 figures in a box, as well as lots of extra bits. However, you do not get any bases, at least in these kits here, so you'll have to acquire those elsewhere. And I would like to mention that Wargames Atlantic products are made in the USA, woot woot, and designed on both sides of the pond, which is pretty great, I think. It's nice we can still collaborate with our former Imperial overlords. Okay, let's take a quick look at the Bulldogs and the Lizardmen, and then we will crack open that box of SpaceNam Jungle Fighters. So if you're a fan of GW's classic Praetorian or Mordian Iron Guard figures, but you don't want to pay collector's prices for the original sculpts, the Wargames Atlantic Bulldogs box is a screaming deal. So basically there's just one sprue, but you get 4 different copies of it with 6 bodies on each sprue. Here is a classic metal Mordian Iron Guard right here. And as you can see, he's probably a little smaller than these Bulldog sculpts are going to be when they're built out. But that's okay, because that'll mean that the Bulldogs are going to be more in line with modern Astra Militarum. These sprues include a range of weapons, including some kind of generic World War I and World War II theme type rifles and machine guns and things like that. Perhaps not historically accurate, but in that theme anyway. Then there's several kind of sci-fi looking weapons that might be described as grimdark. So there is a plasma type weapon right there, it looks like. Perhaps that's some kind of grenade launcher. That might be a handheld flamethrower right there. So yeah, you get the gist. And then of course we get the aforementioned heads, including these guys with pith helmets. Some of them look like they might be appropriate for Rourke's Drift type scenarios, and others look like they're preparing for a mustard gas attack. Here are some heads with Mordian style caps on them, in case you ever wanted to have plastic Iron Guard. Here are a few heads with berets, which are kind of reminiscent of the old Imperial Guard stormtroopers from way back when. And then there's a bunch of heads with Tommy style helmets that you could use for Weird War I or something like that. Some are equipped with gas masks and some are not. So as you can see, these are super versatile. You can use them as proxy Imperial Guard for diesel punk / Weird War scenarios, or what I want to do is use them for Steampunk Victorian skirmish games like In Her Majesty's Name, or larger games like The Men Who Would Be Kings, which is kind of like Lion Rampant for the Victorian colonial wars. Or you could kind of mix the two, so say there was a British expedition that has journeyed to the center of the Earth, or sailed an airship to the moon, where they encountered a race of hostile Lizardmen, which is kind of where these guys come in. So you get 24 Lizardmen in a box, and they can be equipped with primitive hand weapons, with muskets, or even assault rifles and gas masks. So yeah, there's only one sprue in the box really, but you get 8 copies of it. I'm thinking these guys would be pretty useful if you wanted to try some sort of Land of the Lost type scenario. These could be the Slee Stack. So you can kit these guys out with spears, with primitive black powder weapons, or even a modern automatic weapon. So what I'm thinking is, maybe you have a 2-part scenario where the British Expeditionary Force uses some kind of Victorian chronosphere to go back in time to a pre-Ice Age civilization run by primitive lizard folk, but in so doing they somehow damage the timeline and create the planet of the Skinks. So now the British Empire is ruled by their lizard overlords, and the Expeditionary Force has to somehow rescue the Queen. And speaking of Planet of the Skinks, it appears that this SpaceNam set is actually a collaboration between Wargames Atlantic and a company called Reptilian Overlords, which designs a lot of printable wargaming miniatures. So apparently Wargames Atlantic is taking some of those Reptilian Overlords designs and reproducing them in hard plastic, which is kind of cool. So obviously these guys are reminiscent of the old Rambo-esque Catachan jungle fighters from GW. So 20 multi-part hard plastic 28mm figures. And let's take a look at what we got here. As with the other kits, there's just one sprue, but here you get 5 copies of it. Here's an old metal Catachan for comparison, and yeah, I think he's going to be quite a bit smaller than these plastics once they're built out. Which is probably a good thing though, because if you're using these for Imperial Guard proxies, you're probably going to want them to be comparable to your modern Astra Militarum figures. So here we have some kind of sniper rifle, it looks like. That could be some kind of heat-based weapon, perhaps for melting tanks or other hard targets. Then there's some regular old infantry weapons, perhaps this is a battle rifle of some type or a laser type weapon. This kit comes with 22 different heads, not quite as many as the Bulldog kit, and they're all kind of in the same theme, the old jungle fighter theme. So as I said, you get 20 figures in here with a variety of weapon options, including rifles, edged weapons, flamethrowers, grenade launchers, sniper rifles, plasma guns, and heat weapons. So basically everything one would need to kit out a couple of Imperial Guard squads or a Catachan-themed kill team. For a game like Xenos Rampant, on the other hand, you could use Cadians for your regular troopers, and then these guys could be your John Rambo-style special forces. And as I said, you get a box of 20 for about 40 bucks, so that's not too bad. Okay, so that is the contents of yesterday's surprise delivery. If the weather was a bit warmer, I'd probably be outside building Lizardmen right now because they look relatively easy to paint. The Bulldogs perhaps less so because of all those stripes, buttons, and pouches. Regardless, I still believe they will be very useful for a variety of Victorian steampunk adventures, and because you get 24 Brits in a set and a wide variety of heads, I should be able to get 2 opposing factions out of a single box if I'm careful. We shall see. So what do you guys think about Wargames Atlantic products? Do you use them? Do you like them? Do you have a favorite box set? And if you do, please leave a comment in the comment section because maybe I'm missing out on something I need to pick up. So I guess that's it for today. As I said, Xenos Rampant should be shipping this week, so stay tuned for more info on that. I suspect we're going to play the heck out of that game. But until then, wherever you are, I hope you're doing well. Thanks very much for checking in. We'll see you soon, and if you're celebrating Thanksgiving this week, cheers.